So, okay, well, this is a really short one, only about 10 minutes, and just kind of threw it in there. Thought just bring everybody up to speed on the differences in the HTI Echo Sounder hardware with what we're currently building kind of over the last couple of years, and just what the differences are from the units that most everyone here is using, and that actually I'm still using in our lease pool. So just to kind of, in summary, the main differences are to the monitor control board is what the component's called, and it's the biggest board on the front of the HTI Echo Sounder that can be spun out with the four thumb screws on the front. Same type of hardware for either the small 2-channel or the larger Model 244 Echo Sounders. And really, that's the internal computer and the analog digital processing, kind of the heart of the Echo Sounder. The other components in there, the transmitter and the receiver and so on. And really the big driver, any of us who have been doing this for years, Lantastic is definitely kind of a
pain in the butt.
Yeah, I was gonna say a love-hate thing, but there's no love really on that side. But it is one of those pieces that certainly can work well. It's I've had systems, and it almost seems like it's a Karma computer-specific thing where they're fairly bulletproof, but certainly can have some issues with disconnects during sampling where you'll lose network. And Lantastic, as I've mentioned before, it's a networking protocol kind of came into play in the early mid 90s. Allows you to network DOS computers with Microsoft Windows computers, and again, not a whole lot of people using DOS computers anymore, but there's certainly, it's an efficient OS for some of these machine level things, and that's why it was used in the first design of the HTI Echo Sounders. But just recognizing that we kind of seen this coming for some years, and like a lot of HTI engineering developments, I've been promising this to people up in Alaska for about 6 years, 7 years, call every year. I'm really close this year, but I eventually just stopped taking his calls. But, but anyway, and certainly that driver, there are some going into, and what we've done is, have a whole new faster processor series, and then a computer set in there that's operating under Windows CE, and there's a fair bit that goes on inside the Echo Sounder in a machine level computing environment. It's receiving commands for each and every ping, checking that, writing data packets, transferring them up. But going to the Windows CE environment, one of the big pluses and really the first driver on it was just allowing direct network connection in a totally native, consistent Windows environment using standard Microsoft TCP/IP protocols. So that's all there, and that works, and basically gets rid of Lantastic. Unfortunately it required this whole new hardware set in the Echo Sounder, which had some costs associated with it. It wasn't something we could just do in a external computer software way, because we really needed to shift the operations of the Echo Sounder out of the DOS environment. That's buy an Echo Sounder from HTI, and it would come that way. Since we've mainly just changed the monitor control assembly, they did keep everything standard as far as plug-in, and you can upgrade earlier Echo Sounders, again, at some cost, which we can talk.
What is that cost?
It's about $8,500.
Oh, shit.
Yep.
And so, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No.
I was going to ask, with that monitor control board, does that then allow you to direct write to a hard drive, or is there a separate board to get away from writing to the digital audio tapes?
You can write the samples level data which is, the unfiltered, unthresholded data directly to the computer
Okay.
hard drive. And anyway, so then other new features, that's actually what I was kind of just moving into here. You've got, got the ability then to collect that unfiltered data. The piece that still is, I guess, yet to come on that one, that data is fully supported by a lot of other standard cross-vendor acoustic analysis packages like EchoView, Sonar 5,
Yeah.
Alaska Department of Fish and Game has written their own that reads it. But to date, we don't read that natively into our Echoscape program. Although I am working with Dave, and I think we've got, for the type of applications we're doing here, whether he's trying to decide whether he could, how much more effort it would be to support it natively in, Echoscape at the moment. Folks that have been, working and processing directly on this data have usually been using EchoView, which, they do cut their costs in half for freshwater users and so on and so on, but it does, involve learning some new software and methods. It's a good
It's
program.
Still pretty spendy even.
Relatively,
half price.
yeah, relatively at half price, you're still up in the top side of $5,000 anyway. I'm talking with Dave though, and he thinks he'd probably come up with a program that basically would let you input, threshold and some of the parameters that you'd want, and then be able to bring those out as raw and in files. So that's a work in progress that I'd like to see, because then for a lot of our target tracking applications, go away from the DAT tapes, just store it directly to disk, and then have the ability to bring it back into the HTI software that most of us are using primarily. And again, all the existing capabilities, 0.3 are of course still supported. And getting them connected and going is really fairly easy. It's just another command option under that command menu in the DEP software we were looking at earlier today, where there's just a drop down for DES connection, like in the Lantastic systems. The Echo Sounder is just basically a computer node name that's its serial number, Digital Echo Sounder. It's one of our lease pool units there, and you can map. I think you can map to basically any. You're not restricted to just using that S drive, as I think we are kind of hardwired in the software now. But in general, if you're not using it for something else, that's what you'd use. And then the usual. This is pretty straight up, not really any different than the Lantastic systems. Just for folks that hadn't used. Put this together for people that hadn't used the systems before. Just command connect, and it's we've been running these for a while. It's a really robust connection. I think they've done a good job on the networking. A lot of the upgrades that have been coming through lately, and we've actually had a few this spring from Idaho and Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife. Much depends on your department and just how stringent they are on their IT requirements, what computers you can and can't use. The Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife just did a global mandate that nothing operating any OS earlier than Windows 7 could exist within the department.
That's exactly what they did to us.
Yeah.
I have an XP computer in the back room, and they want it. I'm like,
Yeah, squirrel it away for now.
We
I
got
will.
it squirreled away too, but I could see that I'll be putting in for a blue ribbon grant to upgrade our sounder next year.
Well, yeah, and there are.
Calibrate and upgrade at the same time.
There can be some end runs.
Yeah.
We did some explorations, and you can actually run Windows 7 and 8 machines. You can configure a virtual XP window on them. And Lantastic, we had to kind of think around with it a bit, but it will run under that. You can use get a newer computer and still get back and operate the DOS-based HTI echo sounders. I know my IT guy, I was trying to get him to go through some of the mechanics of it, and he kind of gave me this, it's really complicated, I'll have to do it, but I don't think it's that bad. And then I'll be working, with Dave kind of over the coming summer on just trying to see if we can get some software to basically be able to bridge the samples files data back into Echoscape for reprocessing, so that folks who are comfortable, invested in using that approach can then and have these newer echo sounders can.
So is there any problem with using the current version of Echoscape with like Windows 8.1 or 8.2?
Nope, because there's no Lantastic involved. All that maps forward pretty seamlessly. Yeah, this was really just, it was unfortunate there wasn't a real clean software fix run around on it, but I was told there was not, so. I think, let's see, I don't know if I had anything else. And this is just an example of, some of the samples level data just displayed back through, you can run it back through and review it through the DEP program, and it does. I mean, there's a little more richness and detail to it, I think, as far as the unfiltered data, and you can, scroll up or down on threshold and investigate larger, smaller targets and so on.
You can actually actively scroll through that?
Well, yeah, you certainly. Well, I mean, because it's unthresholded data, so you can apply your threshold in post review, and then and also your single echo detection criteria and your
I just didn't realize if there was like a slider that you could just slide back and forth, or if you had to process it with a certain threshold, let the computer run.
Well, I think when it's actually processed to go into Echoscape, you would choose a threshold,
Okay.
But I know in the other the Echo View and so on. I mean, you can basically just slide and scroll threshold on it, and ideally, I'd like to see Dave get that feature in the conversion program too, just to be able to investigate before you decide on a processing threshold. So I'll report back on that at the next one. So again, just in summary, really the two pieces are being able to move into data collection or use data collection computers with OS's 7 and 8 and beyond. And then the ability to collect that unprocessed samples level data, which really is the data directly out of the echo sounder with no echo single echo detection or thresholding criteria applied, recording that directly to disk. And then just the summary, basically I talked ahead of myself on that. And if folks in a stuck spot, I'd say call me, and I'm going to talk with Steve, our IT guy, and see if I can cookbook up some of the procedures just to get the virtual XP up on a Windows 7 machine, so that you could use later machines if you just don't have funding and gotta move. So